Good evening guys, Mac here with another short tech video. This one is a follow-on from my video recently about VMware Fusion. Somebody asked me around the equivalent performance in Virtualbox, so I thought we'd have a look at that. Now, before we get to that, just a quick point. Some of the feedback I got about that VMware Fusion video seemed to indicate that they thought that I was some kind of Parallels fan, and what I was trying to do is put down VMware's product. Honestly, nothing could be further from the truth. I use VMware a lot as part of my day-to-day job. And to give you an idea, I've showed up on the screen here what versions of VMware Fusion I've worked through. And you can see I've had version 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, was there a version 9? 10 and 11. So it's a product I use constantly. And I wouldn't use a product if I didn't like it and didn't get on with it. So hopefully that makes it clear. I perhaps needed to make it clearer in the video that that was the position rather than make it sound like I was just putting VMware down, but perhaps that's something I'll learn for the next video. Anyway, let's have a look at Virtualbox. So Virtualbox, I'll be honest and say I don't use it an awful lot. I have one specific vendor's application that they've given to me in Virtualbox, and that's pretty much the only time I use it, but we can still do some equivalent performance type comparisons. I have a Windows 10 machine configured here that's set up exactly the same as the other one, so let's have a look at that. So you'll see here, for example, it's got 16 gig of RAM allocated and 8 cores. So what we can do is we can do the startup and shutdown times, and then we can look at the snapshots. Now, one quick thing, I was trying to do a Geekbench test with 16 cores, which was actually 8 cores with hyperthreading allocated, and I couldn't get the machine to fire on. So I couldn't get an equivalent Geekbench score for all the cores allocated to compare to the previous ones that I did for VMware and Parallels. But I have done one on the 8 core setup, so let's go and have a look at that. But first, let's look at the boot up time. So let's get this machine started up. There we go. That's not too shabby at all. So let's get logged in. Okay, so the machine's up and running, and like I just showed you, I've got 16 gig allocated and 8 virtual processors. So let's have a look at the general performance. So just firing up stuff like Word and Excel. So the performance is generally pretty good. The only comment I would make is it's not as fluid as either Fusion or Parallels. There's almost like a very small screen lag, which I suspect if this was my main environment every day, I might find it a little bit frustrating. The Parallels environment and the VMware environment is a lot smoother to use on that front, but there's nothing particularly wrong with it, especially considering this is free. Now, I did do some Geekbench scores based on the 8 core because I couldn't get the 16 to run, so let's have a look at those. There you go. So it's about 4,000 single core, which is about a 10% drop on the Parallels and VMware configuration, and a 15,000 multi-core score, which I have to say is not terrible, especially for a free product. The Parallels and Fusion is, they're both faster than this, but not by a massive margin. Yeah, so the performance is pretty good. It's certainly usable, but like I say, you do get that slight screen lag. So let's have a look at the snapshotting. So I'm going to take a snapshot, we'll get Office taken off, and we'll restore that snapshot and see what performance is like. So first we will take a snapshot, if I can remember how to do it. There we go, take a snapshot. We'll call it with Office installed. Let's just see how long it takes. There we go. That didn't take too long at all. So let's get Office removed. It's not particularly hard. Now, the same as last time, I won't make you sit through this because it's not particularly interesting. What we're interested in is that snapshot configuration. But let me just find Office. Where is it? There's My Office, Microsoft Visio. There we go. So let's get it uninstalled. Let's come back to this when it's finished and we'll try that Snapshot Restore. That's all done. Didn't take too long at all. So what we'll try now is actually restoring one of those snapshots. Now, if I remember rightly, we can't restore the snapshot while the machine's running. Let's have a look. We'll go into the snapshot tools, current state, and we can see that version with Office installed. Can we restore it? No, we can't. The restore is blanked out. So what we need to do is shut down the machine. Quite surprised I remembered that, to be honest, but there you go. Let's shut it down and we'll try restoring that snapshot and we'll just have a look at the performance. In fact, you'll get to see this shutdown performance as well, which I'm sure you could see was actually really, really quick there. So let's restore that snapshot. We'll have a look, see how long it takes. I think that's actually finished. Let's fire it up. I think actually it does the snapshot while it starts up, doesn't it? Yeah, there we go. Okay. And it's done. And we should have Word and Excel back. And there we go. So let's look at the shutdown. So I'm not going to give you any detailed conclusions for this because, like I say, it's not a product I use all the time. I have a particular vendor product that they've given me a machine with their product in. So that's pretty much the only time I ever use Virtualbox. But just from what I've seen there, you can see that the performance is actually pretty reasonable. If I had a complaint, there's a couple of things that I've noticed, and they may actually be things that you can fix. The way that the mouse and keyboard interaction works can be a little bit difficult. So, for example, the Control-Alt-Delete thing, for example, is different. The mouse sometimes gets a bit grabby, so trying to get the mouse back from within Virtualbox can sometimes be an issue. Little things like that I think I would find annoying, but the most important one for me is the general fluidity feeling of the machine. That slight lag on the screen update, it kind of feels like you're using something over RDP or kind of remote desktop services or Citrix or something like that. It is good. If you only need to do something now and again within Windows 10 or Windows 7, then I'm sure it'll be perfectly fine and you don't have to go and buy Parallels or VMware Fusion. Whereas I spend most of my day with something running in Parallels and Fusion. So I suspect just having things in Virtualbox might get a little bit frustrating. The other thing is I don't particularly know how well Virtualbox scales to multiple virtual machines, so perhaps that's something worth looking at. This was an answer to a specific request for what does Virtualbox look like. Hopefully that answered your question. It's not an in-depth review, so feel free to tell me what I'm wrong about. Like I say, I don't use it an awful lot, but I hope you found that useful.